The Rise Today Inspirational Podcast is brought to you by two relentless health warriors, Dr. Erica Harris, an empowered mindset health expert who is the passionate founder of RiseToday.com, and Meghan Hubner, an entrepreneurial marketing strategist and founder of Hubner Marketing. These two inspirational forces have truly thrived through adversity and are here to empower you to do the same. Together, they serve to open up the conversation about hardship and to move you to greatness through your adversities. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. Now, let's get started. Let's rise today, right here, right now.
It's a good day. Get up. Can't you see the sun shining? I woke up and I rolled out of bed.
We are so happy to have you back with us here today. We're about to dive in deep and explore the power in our stories and share tools of resolve and resilience and fortitude to help you rise to any adversity that comes your way. Today is just such a great day to make it a great day, no matter what we are facing. Isn't it, Meghan?
Sure is, Erica. Hello, everyone. It's Meghan Hubner, and I can't wait to share this burst of inspiration with you guys today. It's going to unfold quite quickly here. So let's jump in and strive to find the calm in the chaos and so many silver linings of hardship. So I'm incredibly honored today to actually interview my co-host, Erica. So she is going to be our guest today on the Get Up and Thrive Alive podcast.
So honored to get to do so. Thank you, Meghan.
Erica is a well-seasoned survivor. You know, in 2012, she was given a 2-month prognosis for a form of leukemia that was incredibly aggressive. She wasn't responding to treatment and she was sent home. Following that, she actually got herself into remission and was able to qualify with a bone marrow transplant from a 10 out of 10 donor. Following that, her story doesn't end there. She was the recipient of a double lung transplant, being admitted to hospital another year later for an aggressive virus. Finally, she returned home to the love of her family, and no sooner had that happened, but 6 weeks later, a divorce pursued. Erica is an absolute inspiration. You know, she is a long-term friend of mine. I'm so excited to help her share her story with you today. She serves as an empowered mindset health coach. She's the founder of the passionate website called RiseToday.com. She's an international Tedx keynote motivational speaker, a corporate mindset leader, a cancer coach, a #1 best-selling author, and also a retired sports chiropractor, kinesiologist, having owned, operate, and then sold her successful multidisciplinary thriving clinic. Erica, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for that marvelous introduction, Meghan. I'm so humbled. Thank you. So nice to be here and get to be interviewed on our show and this collaborative force that we are doing together.
Erica, where are you right now in the world?
I'm in sunny West Vancouver, and the sun is just pouring right in on this gorgeous day, and spring has certainly sprung. Very lucky.
Oh, just warms the soul, doesn't it? I can see the sun shining in. So can you back up your story a bit? And can you get into where you were, what happened? You know, you are an incredibly inspirational person in my life, but the readers don't, or the listeners don't know your backstory. So can you get right to the heart of what happened on your journey here?
Sure. So back in my previous life, as I've now come to refer to it, I had lived a life passionate about health and wellness, and I hiked up every mountain and I soared down them all on my skis. I ate the highest quality foods and was very, very happily married. I was a passionate mama of 2 tiny wee boys. I was still nursing my youngest and climbing the ladder of life at the age of 35. And I assure you, cancer was not on my agenda. As a thriving sports chiropractor, I had inspired my community to attain its best health status. And I certainly took great pride in my own health and really, truly stood as this pillar of a poster child for health and wellness in every capacity. And back in the spring of 2012, it was a day like any other. And we woke up and I was with my two boys. My husband had already left for work at the time. He always left bright and early. So the three of us were left on our own to plan our day ahead. And we had planned out a really fun day to go to the aquarium. And we were long overdue for our visit with our sea friends. And we had decided to pack a picnic lunch. As we were preparing, I was kind of crossing off a few T's and dotting a few I's on an upcoming big 5th birthday party celebration that I'd been planning for months for my oldest. And we were getting ready for kindergarten orientation. We had so much on the go. We were even pulling out suitcases that very day for a month-long family trip that we had planned. We were due to leave the next week. We were just going to go spend a month by the lake in the interior of British Columbia. We had so much to look forward to, but cancer doesn't care. And I went in as we were driving to the aquarium. I popped in to just do this very quick lab. Quick lab just for a routine thyroid check. When my oldest was born, I had been diagnosed with a very rather common, rather nonchalant diagnosis of hypothyroidism. And I was in for a very routine lab just to assess if the thyroid hormone had been working and a few things. And so I did this quick little lab and then with my boys, and then off we went to the aquarium. It might have taken us maybe 20 minutes from the lab to get to the aquarium. We had just walked through the entry gate, and my little boys with their tiny little legs, they were just darting down the hall, and they were so excited to go find all of their beloved sea friends. And I received a call on my phone, and I'm not sure if you've been to the aquarium lately, but it's quite, the reception is really terrible in the aquarium. So I almost didn't answer this call. But lo and behold, at the end of the third ring, I did pick it up. And all of a sudden, there was this voice with panic and the sense of urgency, trying to establish if it was me, Erica Harris, on the other end. And we did so, and all of a sudden, this voice was saying, you must avoid all public places, and you need to go to the nearest emergency room. And they announced themselves as the lab, and I was rather dumbfounded because I'm kind of standing there needing to catch up to my kids. Again, this poster child for health and wellness. I just had this lab, and I was really convinced that the lab, because of the time span being so quick, had just confused my results with those of another. And I literally said, no, you have a mistake. I'm actually very well. In fact, I'm standing in the most public place of Vancouver as we speak, and I'm very, very well. But lo and behold, I was not very well. And I had been diagnosed with what proved to be a very aggressive version of acute myeloid leukemia. And the world that I once knew was ripped away within the blink of an eye and literally never to return again. I had no clue at that time the Armageddon of storms that was to follow. And with leukemia, you are admitted within hours to the hospital just because it's a blood cancer and it affects all of your bloodlines. So you have literally no functional white blood cells. You have no red blood cells. You don't have any platelets, so you can't clot your blood. So there's so many life-threatening issues that the leukemia itself presents just firsthand, let alone the cancer as well. And so I was admitted within hours of that diagnosis. And like I said, my world just collapsed in an instant. And despite my most valiant of valiant fights back in 2012, and despite the harshest of chemotherapy regimens known as salvage chemotherapy, I devastatingly did not respond. And I devastatingly was awarded a 2-month terminal prognosis, denied even all further medical treatment moving forward from our province's largest hospital, aside from palliative care, because I had not responded to this chemotherapy, and it was the end of the line treatment. I received this 2-month terminal prognosis less than 2 months after first hearing I was even sick. And it was just such a cascade. Sounds came out of me that I just didn't even know existed before that moment. So in the most dire of dire moments, we were given this 2-hour pass to leave from the hospital. And my husband and I left hand in hand, and we drove down to the beach. And it was this beautiful day on July 31st, 2012, and gorgeous sunny evening. And everyone had been out frolicking, playing beach volleyball, riding their bikes, having family picnics. And seemingly from the outside looking in, just looked like they were all there without a care in the world. And I'll never forget that feeling of just yearning for that carefree life that I once had once again. I fought to go home rather than going to the palliative floor. If I had 2 months to live, Meghan, I had a lot of living to do, and I wanted to spend every minute of it with my beautiful family of 4. Our first stop was to receive a second prognosis, a second opinion, from a leading leukemia institute and in Seattle. It's called Fred Hutch. And so we went down so full of hope, so full of optimism that they would have some other idea as to how this dire prognosis would not come to fruition. But very sadly, they awarded us the very same prognosis. And I was truly sent home to die. I prepared for the worst because I certainly did accept the very real potential that this could unfold as they predicted. And I made those very I wrote the heartfelt letters to my boys. I did the video recordings, and tears were just streaming down my face. At the same time, I always expected the best, and I pursued my fight of fights, and I pursued any and everything in the natural healthcare realm, just to stay healthy for one more day ahead and to try to extend that 2 months. To be honest, I didn't even think I could get into remission at the time, but I saw myself, I visualized myself as well at the end of the path. And I didn't know how that would unfold, but I truly just visualized myself at the end of the road. And to be honest, one of my powerful visualizations that I always connect with is seeing myself when I'm actually 80 years old, pushing a stroller down the seawall here in West Vancouver, pushing my grandbabies, no pressure on my boys, but pushing my grandbabies down the seawall. And so I would picture myself. A lot of people see to focus on something 2 years or 5 years down the road. But to be honest, I was going big, like, let's just shoot for the stars. And I'm going to see myself when
I love that.
And I would really connect with that feeling of taking pride as a grandma would almost, right? Being there for her children and for her grandchildren. So that was really a powerful force.
That vision of you with that stroller at the age of 80, is that what got you out of bed every morning? You went home. I remember this. I was alongside of you. I wasn't living it with you, but I was alongside of you. And I remember that day. Can you help our listeners understand what got you out of bed every morning? What got you to be able to dry your tears when you read your children's story? What took you from that point of leaving the hospital to go home for that palliative care? And that vision of the 80-year-old that you had, how did you get through it?
So I've always had this, excellent question, Meghan. I've always had this fierce yearning, that's the only way I can describe it, to still get to be mommy to my 2 boys. I remember when it was hot and heavy and really intense in the hospital, and before I was given this prognosis. And I remember just being in tears and telling my mom, I was raised to stand on mountains, not to be in here. And I remember almost like shouting it out that I wanted to be the one to be my boys' loudest cheerleader. I wanted to be the one to hike every mountain with them. I wanted to be their shoulder to cry on. I wanted to be the one to greet them with smiles and hugs at the start of each new day. And so every bit of fight came from this fierce yearning to get to be mommy. But a really, really great part of this story is bump it a little bit forward for before I heard those dire words that I had 2 months to live. Because I didn't respond to the first round of chemotherapy, the team came in basically saying, look, here's our next stage. We're going to need to do this round of salvage chemotherapy, which is a terrible name in itself. But we're going to need to do this round of salvage chemotherapy, followed by a bone marrow transplant once you're in remission. And this sounded brutal to me, right? Just this whole process. And so I said, show me somebody who's done this, that's thrived through this. I really believe connecting with others on our journey is so important. And there are very few that have experienced this salvage chemotherapy and this bone marrow transplant, because you have to be very strong and fit before being eligible for this salvage chemotherapy. It's brutal on every level, just as it sounds. But my team was incredible, and they rummaged through all of their files, and they found this one incredible woman named Mary. And Mary came in to see me on a day in mid-July. Beautiful, beautiful July day outside. The sun was beaming in. Terrible day inside. I was in septic shock from an infection where they couldn't find the source of, crazy high fever, just feeling super crummy, bald as bald could be, 2 pulls of harsh medications draining into me 24/7. Bad day inside. And she came in and she kind of knocked really softly on my room. I'll never forget this. And it was like she had this light all around her glowing at my door. And she introduced herself as Mary. And she came and she sat beside me. And she said everything I needed to hear. And she had gone through this when she was 45. She also had 2 kids, a little bit older than myself at the time at 35, but she also had 2 kids at that time. And now fast forward, she was sitting here with me in my hospital room. And when she was about to leave, she was off to meet her firstborn grandchild, who had been born hours before she popped in to see me. And so in my visualization, that was also another powerful force, right? Because she was the living proof of that visualization coming true. And so it just reinforced that strength and my ability to hold on through that course. Fast forward now, my team comes running in because after this worldwide search, everyone was trying to find this perfect match for this much needed bone marrow transplant that I would need after I got into remission. My only brother proved not to be a match. Friends and family hailed these community events to generate awareness for the One Match stem cell registry to find that perfect match for a bone marrow transplant. And even a friend swam across Alcatraz. I've been enveloped with worldwide forces of support on my journey. I've been so blessed. But after this worldwide search, my team came running in on finally this amazing day on July 30th, believe it or not, racing in with great news as they had finally found this perfect 10 out of 10 donor. Everyone was just so thrilled. And for me, it just gave me such knowledge, such insight that I would not only survive, Meghan, but that I would truly come to thrive with this gift of hope, this gift of life that had just been extended. And we got to go out on this 2-hour pass and to attend this long since planned family wedding where my boys were the little ring bearers. And I couldn't go inside. I was too weak, but I had to watch from outside. And my husband had just brought me this dress that I had from home. I was bald as bald could be. I had tubes hanging out my chest. And there I was, feeling the most beautiful I've ever felt in my entire life with this gift of life that had just been extended to me, knowing that I would thrive. But then the very next day was the day I devastatingly learned that I wasn't in remission and I couldn't use this gift that had just been given to me, because that was the step. I first had to be in remission before I got this bone marrow transplant. So to be honest, when you asked what helped me hold on, it was holding on to hope that I was given this knowledge about this bone marrow transplant donor on that day for some reason. And I knew I just had to stay healthy enough somehow to find a way to make use of this. And fast forward, I've come to meet my bone marrow transplant donor. We're official Facebook friends, and his last name is Hope. And for all the hope that he instilled on my path to hold on when I heard those words, I had 2 months to live. It's just a beautiful full circle part of this story. And so in this time
incredible.
of having 2 months to live, I pursued any and everything in the natural healthcare realm. And I pursued vitamin injections, and I made dietary changes. Oddly enough, I had really eaten a very traditional anti-cancer diet before getting diagnosed with leukemia. We had been connected with people in the natural healthcare realm from Japan, from Israel, from all over. And all of them were shouting out to me that I needed to eat far more animal protein. It needed to swim, squawk, jump, fly, as I quoted them, with every single meal. And that was super, super hard for me, because I was just a girl who really resonated with lentils and chickpeas. But I made those dietary changes. We did a ton of green juicing. I would have 2 huge bottles of green juice every day. I practiced meditation, and I really learned to connect with myself on a deeper level and healed from within. And miraculously, I attained remission on that beautiful journey, enveloped with love and this fierce yearning to get to be mummy. I'm not sure if it's a gift from above, if it's all those pursuits I did in the natural healthcare realm, but I was very blessed, and I attained remission on my own through natural healthcare efforts. Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. You know, every single time I hear your story, or I repeat portions of your stories to other people and things, you just can't help but radiate the encouragement and the hope and you had such strong vision of where you wanted to go. And I really hope that our listeners are feeling that deep down inside, that whatever your vision is, you just have to create it. And that creating it is going to get you to the next step. Going home with a 2-month prognosis, going home with saying, spend time with your family. Like, I couldn't imagine all of those things that you went through. So I think that it's just so heartfelt, Erica. I really appreciate you going so deep on how painful that could have been. Now, if you were to look back, what warning signs would you have had? Were there any warning signs?
Sure. So great question. I think as a young mom, our hearts are so devoted to our children that we really place very little emphasis on our own health or really wellness. We're just so focused, kind of a narrow tunnel vision on how they're doing 100% of the time. I again, when I was standing that day in the aquarium, I felt like that poster child for health and wellness. In retrospect, sure, there were a ton of symptoms that added up. I had been really, really, really tired, but I just assumed all young moms were just that tired. My oldest was very observant, and about 3 months before I was diagnosed, actually, he looked up at me and said, "Mommy, why do your eyes always look so tired now?" He was 4 at the time, and I felt it. My eyes just felt so heavy. I was also experiencing these night sweats, which generally would put off this ding, ding, ding red flag sign. But I had experienced these same night sweats in my early 20s when I was, after multiple medical evaluations, it was chalked up to being hormonal changes from exercising a lot. So again, with still nursing my youngest, I kind of chalked it up to being hormonally attributed to that as well. At this point, those night sweats seemed to be worse when I had my cycle. So it kind of seemed to add up. Probably the symptom that really stood out the most was this rash that I developed just on my hands, both my hands, really, really thick. And as a chiropractor, you're using your hands all day. It's just it was very painful. It was very embarrassing as well, right? To this thick, scaly rash. And it was about a year before I had been diagnosed. And just a few months before I was actually diagnosed, it also started to develop on my eyelids, believe it or not. I went to for my naturopathic evaluations. I went to dermatology, and they all just kind of thought perhaps I developed a new food allergy that we couldn't really pinpoint. It was eczema. And oddly enough, after my chemotherapy treatment, that rash went away so quickly and it's never returned again. So I'm not super sure if that was a sign. Maybe my body was just so down and out, right? Because I'm putting everything forth. I'm still nursing at the time. Like I'm just putting so much out, even though my body was trying to fight so much. So those would have been the symptoms that I could have, in retrospect, looked back to and probably attributed, and that I kind of just underplayed. But again, I really, truly thought all young moms were just that tired.
I think you bring up a really great point there, is that so often in that season of life, we put ourselves further down the road than we actually should be as far as priority goes. And I think that's really, really important to kind of make sure that you know what's going on with you so that you can best serve your entire family. Yes. Really, really strong message.
Being aware.
Now, one of the words, be aware. One of the words that I use to describe you is resilience. Now, you had a 2-month prognosis. You had a successful bone marrow transplant following you at that terminal sentence. You got yourself to a place where you were spending as much possible time as you could with your family and things to get you through the next stage. I can only imagine that a bone marrow transplant is incredibly invasive and painful, but your journey doesn't end there. So what happened next? And where, when I say resilient, that's what you are. Tell the listeners about what happened next after your successful bone marrow transplant.
Sure. So I grew strong after that bone marrow transplant, and I was back to hiking every mountain and soaring down on them all on my skis, and even teaching my babies to ski in Whistler. And you have to be pretty physically fit to do so, because you're kind of hovered over, holding them much of the time. And I was really, really strong. But as I was back to my hikes and hiking Grouse Grind, which is one of our great local hikes here, I just found that I couldn't get my breath quite as well. And this was only a few months after my bone marrow transplant. As I was getting physically stronger, my cardiovascular strength seemed to be taking a steep and steady decline. And it didn't really add up. Like both should have been moving forward cohesively in my recovery. But as I was hiking, I just found I couldn't talk in the same manner that I used to be able to talk. And for a girl who likes to talk, that was a bit of a problem. And so I kind of complained about it to my physicians and just kind of mentioned it. Hey, I just don't really have the same air capacity. I can't really get the same depth of air in for some reason. And, at first they were like, oh my gosh, Erica, you're just so much more active than everyone else after transplant. And you're just so grateful for the gift of this moment that it was like of zero significance to me that I couldn't hike Grouse Grind anymore. I would just be happy to walk the seawall. And I was just so grateful that it just really didn't faze me. And so on my walks of the seawall, I didn't really notice it for a couple months, but then all of a sudden, even flat walks, I just couldn't seem to catch my breath. And unfortunately, I think there was a bit of a time delay for my team to really pick up on the fact that my new, very hardy immune system from this bone marrow transplant donor decided to wake up, kind of looked around my body, and didn't recognize my own lungs. And given I've adopted the blood of another, my blood type even changed from O negative to A positive, which is like a really great score on that test. It's a hardy, strong immune system. And so it kind of serves every part of my body. So it can look around at any time and embark on any phase of rejection. And I guess it decided to embark on this process of rejection with my lungs. It did not recognize my lungs. It attacked my lungs as if my lungs were a cold or a flu. And this new hardy immune system sadly did a very thorough job. And I fell to 84 pounds very soon after. I was prescribed full-time oxygen. I was told that I would need a double lung transplant to survive. staying the course of each day was brutally hard, because for something great to happen to me, something terrible had to happen to somebody else. And how does one come to grapple with this? With the harsh medications, I lost my vision. I couldn't drive. I couldn't watch a movie. I couldn't read a book, and I couldn't exercise. If I walked across my kitchen, I felt as though I would lose control of all bodily functions. It was just terrible trying to stay the course of each day. And then only with thanks to the family of another who, in their most trying of times, bestowed the most beautiful of gifts to me of new lungs, did I receive the gift of new lungs in the summer of 2015. And a really neat part of this story is that on the day that I heard those words, I had 2 months to live on July 31st. Fast forward, and July 31st, 2015, exactly 3 years later, was the day that I was told these new lungs were awaiting me. And only then was I gifted with the gift of air and the gift of breath, and a gift that we all so readily take for granted. And I grew strong again after that, but again, I faced unexpected complications, and the rise and fall continued. And I was very immune suppressed and really struggled fighting a very common virus. And I grew resistant to all forms of treatment. I faced another year-long hospitalization. I was known as the Hail Mary of our province's largest hospital. And I had this miraculous miracle again unfold Easter weekend of spring 2017, where I just miraculously started to develop my own immunoglobulins to this darn bug. And after this amazing Easter miracle, where I just grew strong from this bug, I was finally on my curve back to health, and I was finally discharged. I was no longer serving as a permanent resident of our hospital, and I finally got to go home. And only 6 weeks after I was home and so eager for that calm after the storm, my husband chose to divorce. And never once did I think that my once strong, happy marriage would succumb to the statistics that fall prey to cancer with marriages and relationships. But cancer affects the whole family, and more resources are certainly needed to be allocated to young families of sick young parents to better serve them for this very reason. So I'm passionately spearheading initiatives on that front right now.
You know, I love your initiative, that, you know, just taking a look at our society as a whole, what you've been through is so incredibly hard. And, you know, we take a look at the patient so often, but we neglect sometimes looking at, you know, your children were young when they went through that. It was trauma for everyone in the family and things. And I think that your initiative on risetoday.com to help other people navigate these waters is so, so powerful, because this is definitely an area that you can serve, that you can give back. You've overcome so much. I love hearing how you can support people now, today, in the present time.
Thanks, Megan.
So how did you find, you know, what were some of the things that you found really helpful to you during this time? You've talked about the visualization and the powerful mindset and things, but what are some tangible things that might help people in their journey today?
Sure. One of the biggest, I guess, mindset shifts, I would call it, was accepting the moment of now, and stop worrying about where we think we should be, where we think we ought to be. There was a lot of guilt that came with this diagnosis, that my kids needed me to be at home. Of course, like what child deserves to have a sick parent, right? So there was a lot of guilt that I needed to be back home in that moment, cooking dinners, doing the everyday flow. But soaking in and turning your mindset to really find the value in what has come your way. And so for me, one of the biggest attributes or values that came from that journey at that time in the now was the gift of relationships, because so many people were just there who just cared so much. And friends would come and read to me. You were one. Friends would come and read to me in the evenings when my husband was home putting the kids to bed, and tucking me in at night. And the value in those relationships, it's so hard in our world today to often connect with our closest of friends because we both have busy schedules, right? But in my world, we took out one of those schedules. And so I really got the chance to connect with everyone on such a deeper, really more rooted level. And that was a really beautiful gift. And so sinking into the now and sinking into me and the soul searching that came with that, because even though I was enveloped with literally forces of love from all corners of this great world, you can still feel so alone. And those 4 white walls of my hospital room, they would start to talk to me, but they sure taught me a lot of lessons. And you just really have to be open to hearing those lessons and to finding the silver linings that come, because truly the harder you fall, the higher you bounce. And there are so many silver linings if you just look. And I could not feel more blessed. I feel as though I've been chosen, handpicked out of this crowd of people to go through this huge, tumultuous tidal wave that came through, go in the undertow of it, be circled around over and over and over again, and to come out of it with this sense of gratitude for each and every moment, and this calm in my heart that I never otherwise had, and this ability to serve the world in the way that I'm doing now. It's all such a gift. I certainly loved my profession. I had a profession that was made for me as a sports chiropractor, but I can do so now and even on a bigger level. And what a gift that is. I get to be mommy to my 2 beautiful boys who are now 13 and 10, and they were just not even 5 and 2 when all of this started. What a gift that is. They too know the value of each and every moment. I get to be 43 years old today. I get to have fresh career opportunities ahead, and I get to have fresh relationship opportunities ahead. How blessed am I? But you have to look to find those silver linings.
I love that. I absolutely love the fact that you do. You're right. You have to open your eyes. You have to look. You have to be open to what is whirling around you. Otherwise, you'll miss it.
Yes.
So important. So let's lighten things up a little bit. Tell us, what is your guilty pleasure that you are too embarrassed to tell most people?
Sure. So, what would that one be? Probably a few. Okay, here it goes. I love the show The Bachelor. I always have, and I liked it. I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. I will record everyone, and I do not miss a beat. I know. There you have it.
It's not terrible. We can't judge.
I just feel better. I feel lighter for getting it off.
Okay, you said there was a couple there. That's one. Tell me one more.
So, well, this might not sound like a guilty pleasure, but in the way that that I consume them, it's probably a guilty pleasure. And I love grapes. Oh. And yes, I probably
yes,
single-handedly probably keep the grape industry alive. I do only organic grapes. So it's really a hard time for me from November until May. I'm really hoping they come back very soon. I'm just itching for it. But yes, I keep the grape industry alive and well. And that was one thing that it was hard for me, right? Because when I made all these dietary changes, any fruit that was high in sugar was off my list, and it was an absolute no-no. And so having survived a 2-month prognosis, I did not deviate from the advice that I had followed in that time for literally a 2-year period. And I mean, it was intense, it was structured, it was regimented, and it was, I just wouldn't deviate from it. And it was also hard to accommodate to that diet because you'd be out for family visits and family dinners with others, and it's just awkward, right? And so as much as I believe in the fight of fights and empowering ourselves, I also believe, like I was saying, in this moment of now and finding the value in the moment of now. So being kinder to myself and being more compassionate to myself. But I remember that point 2 years after and having that first grape and feeling so bad about it. And then I just made this mindset shift and I said, I'm just not going to feel bad about my grapes. I love my grapes. So that's.
Do you like them fresh or frozen? Because I think frozen grapes is a pretty big thing.
I'm not a frozen girl at all. No, but they have to be really crunchy.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm very selective.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very, for sure. Now, what is your favorite app on your phone currently?
Sure. So, you know what? This one's going to be a little bit biased only because of our recent journey. And my youngest child, my son, has recently been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And this came as a very abrupt diagnosis, much like mine was. And oddly enough, Meghan, he was diagnosed last June on the exact same day I was diagnosed years ago in 2012 with AML, right? And so how lucky, what an honor it is to get to be here to help him rise and shine through his diagnosis and to thrive through it. Just as I've been doing in the coaching realm with these cancer patients. It's been so rewarding. But to get to do it with my own son, how rewarding. On a huge full circle level of another reason as to why I've truly survived to get to be here for both of them, but for him during this time. Anyhow, you ask about this favorite app, and he has totally thrived through this diagnosis. He's just been amazing. He's still doing soccer and ski racing and basketball. He still does it all. He's just a little champion going through with it. But for all of the pokes and for all of the hardships that come in tow with having to be yanked from sports just when his sugar falls a little bit low and there's a risk of seizure or coma, all of this that comes with it. There's a lot. It's a lot for a 9-year-old who's now 10 to have to navigate. But now my favorite app happens to be called this Dexcom app that tells me at any time of the day, any time of the minute, exactly what his blood sugar is without a poke to his little finger. And so it's such a gift because watching your child go through pokes, it hurts at your deepest core level. So this Dexcom, I will say, is my new favorite app.
So he's on a continuous blood glucose meter then.
You got it. So he's got this little tool that's in his skin kind of all day and then magically connects with my phone. And so even if he's at school in the normal world without COVID, my phone will go ding, ding, ding if he's falling a bit low. And so we can kind of recruit the forces, right? Everyone can check in on him and make sure he's okay. So it's just such a comfort. This world
of technology that we live in is just a gift in itself.
Yes.
You know, be able to manage diabetes like that, those with 60-year-old cases, imagine if they had that years and years ago. We're so lucky for those opportunities.
Such a blessing.
Now, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'd like to hear it from you. Who is the most fascinating person you've ever met?
Well, I would have to say Oprah Winfrey herself. Yes, what an opportunity that was. She very much liked my haircut. It
is very cute.
Thank you. It was fast. It was furious. She was coming here to speak, and I was invited to go and have this backstage moment with her, and it was just such a light, right? Because I don't know, she's so full of inspiration and hope and just her presence. And I left there last June after having met her and just so inspired to take my heart and my vision forward and how I wanted to serve the world. And I had been invited to do TED Talks on numerous platforms repeatedly up until this point. And I hadn't felt ready for it, right? So I kind of just, politely dismissed it. And I was just waiting until I felt ready in my heart. But I said leaving that evening after meeting the lovely and wonderful Oprah Winfrey herself, okay, Erica Jane, you're just going to say yes to anything that comes your way. And then the very next day, Meghan, my phone rang, ding, ding. And I was invited to do this TED Talk over at Brentwood College. And it was the moment that I said, I am meant to say yes to this and I am meant to rise to this occasion. And it proved to be, it could not have unfolded any better. So that environment for my TED Talk was just the best place to do so. Like it just would not have been the same moving experience doing it on any of these bigger stages in New York or on across the world. It just was so perfect at this beautiful campus, right on the water, full of trees all around. It just could not have been more incredible.
That's
Very
fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Erica, for sharing your raw and vulnerable and difficult journey, to health, to the day that we have here today. I know that you're doing some coaching and things. I know that you are inspired and you are committed to helping those transition through times of hardship and things. Where can our listeners find you, and what type of services are you currently providing?
Sure. So I am now serving as an empowered mindset health expert. I speak on stages as an inspirational speaker, and I love to do so. And I love to leave audiences with actionable change to rise up and live their best life with the gift of today, and to own every second of it, no matter what comes our way, really. I have been helping other cancer patients navigate their cancer diagnoses. I've got this really great 8-week Power of Positivity coaching program that I've established that's been very rewarding, working with these other patients. I have been dabbling with writing. I was invited to partake in this really cool book called The Silver Linings of Cancer and submit a chapter. It's written by 13 very courageous women who shared their stories to serve as a short burst of inspiration, really intended for a doctor's office. Let's say if you're hearing hard news, just to pick up and you can connect with any short chapter. And then from that came the opportunity from these New York publishers to work on my own manuscript, which I'm working on right now, called Rooted to Rise. So hopefully that's out sooner than later, which I'm very excited for this opportunity. And I've also been working as a corporate mindset leader, establishing programs to foster greater levels of positivity, which inherently cultures greater levels of productivity in the workforce. All super, super rewarding. And again, just really passionate about spearheading these new initiatives to establish better healthcare measures for the families of young sick parents. Really passionate about that, so that there are better support systems in place for the spouses and the children, and resources available for daycare, et cetera, that you need imminently with facing a big diagnosis. So super passionate about that, and big advocate for organ donation campaigns. Yeah, very, very
That's great.
My heart's behind that. Yes.
That is so great. I love it. Well, I certainly love the direction you're heading. And I certainly hope that, anyone listening, if you resonate with Erica's story today, please feel free to reach out with her, connect with her. The reason that we really got behind this inspirational podcast is to help you through days of adversity, to help you see silver linings, to help you find the deep motivation from within yourself that you didn't even know was there. Please join us on our next couple episodes as we release them here. We have been so thrilled to share our story with you today, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.
It's gonna be a good day.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Take this inspiration forward. Learn more at risetoday.com/podcast. And please do help us in our mission to spread hope, inspiration, and positivity by encouraging those in your circle to join us and to tune in for our next show of inspiration coming soon. Please contact us if you have a powerful story to share with us to inspire the world. Until next time, get out there and rise today.